The NFL is responding to the Miami Dolphins' plan to crack down on players kneeling during the anthem. But first, a string of shootings across the Bay Area leaves 2 people dead, another in critical condition, and a woman wounded. And tonight, deputies tell us that these are all connected. I'm Katie McCall.
And I'm Carolina Leid. What investigators don't know is the reason behind these shootings. Nightside's Grady Trimble takes you scene by scene as investigators search for clues.
The shooting spree ended in a shootout at this strip mall in Hernando County. Detectives say the clerk at this smoke shop shot and killed the suspect after he shot him. The spree started in North Pasco County, where investigators say Theodore Tony Parker shot at, then beat a woman he knew. She's shaken but expected to be okay. Detectives say the suspect then drove from Pasco County to this neighborhood in Hernando County. They say he shot and killed a man in that house.
He's been a family friend for a couple years.
Oh my gosh.
So it's hard. You know, he's a kind-hearted man who's never done anybody wrong. So we don't understand why.
Friends showed up to this house on Olson Road to offer condolences.
He was an awesome man. He helped everybody that he could in any way that he could.
Investigators tell us the man shot here knew his killer.
His family's going to be devastated, and the only justice is that the clerk killed Tony.
Detectives think Tony Parker was trying to rob the smoke shop when the clerk fired back. That clerk is in critical condition. The suspect died. And investigators are still trying to figure out what triggered him to go on a 2-county rampage, leaving 2 people hurt and 1 dead. In Hernando County, Grady Trimble, 10 News.
Right after the shootings happened at around 3 o'clock this afternoon, a nearby daycare was on lockdown. Fortunately, all of those children are okay.
And this dominated headlines last season. We were talking about the NFL and the national anthem. Justin Granite joining me now. Justin, it looks like the NFL might be reevaluating that policy for kneeling during the anthem.
Yeah, this is a fluid situation. As of this moment, the NFL freezing any new national anthem policies. This coming just a few hours after the Associated Press broke that Miami Dolphins ownership will suspend and/or fine any of its players for taking a knee. This afternoon's AP reports that the Dolphins' new policy called proper anthem conduct. The franchise puts this rule in place after the NFL determined it may fine teams if the players take a knee. The caveat to that decision was each individual franchise could choose to punish its players.
All right, so Justin, are there other teams that are taking this sort of similar policy that we saw the Dolphins earlier tonight take?
At least publicly, we don't know that, but we do know one thing for sure. The New York Jets do not have any of those policies in place because back in May, their ownership said, we won't punish, fine, or suspend any of our players. And in fact, we will pay the fines that the NFL shell out. But again, we have to remember here, as we look at this policy right here, no new rules relating to the anthem will be issued or enforced for the next several weeks while these confidential discussions are ongoing. Again, the first preseason games begin May 18th, specifically for the Buccaneers. They're taking on the Tennessee Titans. So we have to remember, these policies could either be reinforced, adjusted, or completely eliminated. So the NFL and the PA tonight responding to that Associated Press report that the Miami Dolphins would suspend or fine its players for taking a knee.
And Katie, before these new developments, this was a discussion that you and Justin had on Facebook Live, talking about the Dolphins policy and what, people think about it.
And so many opinions, Carolina, about this every time we talk about the anthem. Tonight, 450 of you have commented so far with strong opinions, both for and against the Dolphins' decision, which the NFL has essentially halted tonight. But here's what you had to say. Marbeth, you say they have ruined the art of the game when it ceases to be a game but a political stunt. We are tired of political stunts. Elizabeth, you don't agree with the Dolphins. Social injustice needs to be brought to the forefront any way it can come forward, either taking a knee to protest or walking the streets. Thank you, football players, for your honesty and bravery. Bill, you say, I don't see why this is an issue. My employer has policies I don't like. I still follow them, and I make quite a bit less than a third-string NFL player. MJ, you disagree. They have every right to demonstrate as they see fit. The veterans of our country fought for freedom of speech along with the rest of our way of life. It's America. We'd love to hear your thoughts on all of these new developments, so join the conversation. You can find it right on the 10 News Facebook page.
President Trump wants to meet with Vladimir Putin again, this time at the White House. White House Press Secretary Sarah Sanders tweeted that Putin has been invited to Washington in the fall, and planning is already underway for that meeting. Putin's visit would make him the first Russian leader to visit the White House in nearly a decade. But President Trump is still facing criticism for not denouncing Russian interference in the 2016 election during his meeting with Putin in Finland. And this headline dominated the news today. The White House says Trump to discuss allowing Russia to question U.S. citizens. Our Phil Buck has been doing some digging on that for us. So what did you find out?
Well, a few things. First, let's take a look at these Americans that the Russians say they want to interrogate. We know of two specifically. They include Bill Browder, who the Russians have been after for years. He helped expose a huge corruption scandal over there that involved the Russian mafia and government officials stealing tax revenues. Okay. And then there's also Michael McFaul, who was the U.S. ambassador to Russia under President Obama. He has been a pretty harsh critic of Vladimir Putin and was named by the Russians as a person of interest in their case against Browder.
So the Russians say they want to question these two. Can they?
Well, that's what really we all want to know. So, I reached out to Brendan Beery. He's a constitutional law professor at the Cooley Law School. I've interviewed him for other stories like this before. He tells me no president can just negotiate away our constitutional rights in some international agreement. Not to mention, the Supreme Court actually ruled on this very issue back in 1957 in favor of our rights as citizens. And as if that constitutional right isn't enough, which it should be on its own, the Senate today voted overwhelmingly to approve a resolution that we, the United States, refuse to turn those Americans over to Russia for questioning.
All right, thank you, Phil, for digging into that.
And here's a look at today's other top stories.
A Dunedin woman shot during a home invasion is 18 years old and 20 weeks pregnant. That's according to Pinellas deputies. She is still in intensive care, but we don't know the health of her unborn child. Her boyfriend told detectives 2 men burst into their home and shot the woman. If you know anything, call the Pinellas Sheriff's Office.
Polk County is on pace to have certified guardians in all 85 elementary schools by the first day of class. Sheriff Grady Judd says more than 500 people have applied, 98 have advanced, but Judd is still looking for more applicants. Guardians are different from school resource officers. They'll carry a gun, but they can't arrest anyone.
The auto industry is pushing back against President Trump.
A 25% tariff on imported autos and auto parts would only lead to fewer sales, which leads to fewer American jobs.
The president says imports are eroding the domestic auto industry, but the auto lobby says American consumers will end up paying more for cars, and the tariffs could wipe out more than 700,000 jobs.
Ybor's famous chickens freed from the political chopping block. Tampa City Council decided to keep a rule in place that protects the chickens after City Council Chairman Fred Reddick tried to roll it back. Reddick said he received complaints over noise from the roosters, but everyone who showed up to today's meeting favored protecting the birds. City Council will revisit the issue if it receives more complaints.
Tollgate. That's what one state lawmaker is calling the SunPass saga after watching 10 Investigates expose the problems. Tampa Democrat Janet Cruz told our Noah Pransky today she's concerned about the state's 49-day disruption to SunPass accounts, the big bills and errors that could hit customers' wallets in the coming months, and the fact that state legislators had to learn about all of these problems from 10 Investigates. Cruz wants the governor's office to launch a full investigation into the SunPass problems and how the contract was awarded. In the meantime, you can see a timeline of the SunPass breakdown at WTSP.com/SunPass.
A rabid bat clings onto a woman, so she squeezed it to death.
We're on top of a 10 news alert tonight out of Missouri. The Stone County Sheriff says 8 people are dead after a duck boat capsized in Branson. The tourist boat sank on Table Rock Lake with more than 30 people on board. Deputies say several other people are in the hospital. The sheriff says weather may be responsible for the sinking, but they are still investigating.
In Hillsborough County, a woman finds a rabid bat clinging onto her arm. I'm with Alex Miranda. This story is everywhere on social media. A lot of people thought that bat bit the woman.
Yeah, that is not actually what happened. I got a hold of the animal control report right here, and it turns out doctors couldn't find any signs of a bite. Now, this happened in Sun City Center. Here's what I can tell you. The victim, 83-year-old Patricia Andrews, was in a bathroom when she felt something on her right forearm.
Oh, scary.
Yeah, when Andrews noticed that it was a bat, she pushed it off. Then she grabbed a towel, picked it up, and squeezed it until it died. Hillsborough County Animal Control say they didn't notice any punctures on her arm either. Now, despite what you might have heard about bats, most don't have rabies, and that's by far. The CDC reports only about 6% of bats that are able to be captured, meaning, Carolina, they're weak or sick and have a higher likelihood of carrying it, actually have rabies. You should also know that you can't tell if a bat has rabies just by looking at it. But if a bat is out and about during the day, that's not usual, or found in an unusual place, like in your home or on your lawn, maybe it's unable to fly, that bat might be rabid.
So those are good signs to look out for. Got it.
Of course. Now, rabies, of course, can be fatal. So if you think you've been bitten by a rabid animal, the CDC recommends to wash your wound thoroughly with soap and water and seek medical attention immediately.
All right, thank you, Alex. Great information.
Good advice, guys. A string of tornadoes swept across Iowa tonight, leaving a trail of destruction and injuries in its wake. Homes were destroyed in several cities around Des Moines. You can see the video right there. 7 people were hurt at a factory in the city of Pella, and a hospital was damaged in Marshalltown. 40 patients had to be moved from that hospital to other hospitals. Those are just powerful storms, and man, they can touch down in one spot and the spot next to it perfectly fine.
And that first video that you saw there had 2 tornadoes in it at the same time.
Amazing.
Twin tornadoes kind of moving through. Like you said, it was in the Des Moines area. It's just actually just northwest. Des Moines is right about in here, and the tornado went just about to the north and northwest of it. Well, multiple tornadoes. Now, you can see all these little red dots. Those are all tornado reports, but a single tornado can make multiple reports, of course. All kinds of damage out there right now. That's the storm system. This is a 12-hour loop. You can see the severe weather threat has now moved down towards St. Louis. But the threat for tomorrow, that's today's threat. Look for tomorrow. It's going to be a little bit more towards the south and the east, and it looks like Indiana, Illinois, Kentucky, and Tennessee, western Tennessee, really going to be under the gun for a severe weather threat. Now, as that continues to move off towards the south and the east, it really tends to lose a lot of its oomph, and it's not going to be a big deal by the time those storms get towards the southeast. For us, not looking at any severe weather here. 89 is where we topped out for today. 90 is the average, 96 the record. 81 is where we started this morning for our low temperature. Here's the deal. Rainy pattern that we've kind of seen. It's going to continue over the next several days right into the weekend, and I think we're going to see a little bit more rain at times. Some minor flooding is possible because when those showers come through, even if they're brief, there's a lot of moisture in the atmosphere, and it can put down a lot of rain in a short amount of time. Beach and boating. Now, we're going to start to increase our winds a little bit out of the west-southwest, and that's going to cause some issues with waves, surf, and some rip currents over the next couple of days. It's nice out there right now, though. Very quiet, temperature 83 degrees. Yeah, it feels like it's 91 because it's humid, 76-degree dew point, but it's very comfortable out there. You can see we do have some showers for Sarasota, Manatee County. Pinellas and Hillsborough, we're not seeing a lot. We had a couple showers here moving towards Plant City. That's almost out of the area right now. It'll be out of there in about 5 to 10 minutes. These showers are kind of on and off overnight. There'll be a good break after these come through in about an hour or so, but Longboat Key, even Anna Maria Island, Bradenton, expect some showers rolling through. Bigger picture shows most of the rain's been to our north and the west. It'll stay there, literally where it is now, and then it will sink a little bit southward towards the weekend. So that's why I think it gets trapped underneath that cold front and we stay a little unsettled all the way through. So here's what the forecast looks like. That was a stationary front, by the way. It's just stationary. It's not going anywhere, and that's why we keep this rain here. That's 7:30 in the morning. Watch for some scattered showers for that morning commute. That is lunchtime. Look at especially Pinellas, Hillsborough, I-4 northward. That's where most of the rain will be. And then in the afternoon, a lot of it will push inland and start to dry up a little bit. Same scenario Saturday, same scenario Sunday. And if you look at the rainfall totals forecast, you get an idea of where most of the rain is going to fall. The further north you go, the more rain that we will see. So just keep that in mind. It looks like now the first half of the day will be the wettest, especially along the coast. 60% rain chance for tomorrow at the high of 88. Southwest winds for boating, 10 to 15 knots, a moderate chop on the bay, 2 to 3 footers, and that wind increases throughout the weekend. That's Friday evening. This is Saturday afternoon especially, and then Sunday will be the breeziest. So if you've got beach plans this weekend, especially boating, Sunday's not the day. Even it's going to be a little bumpy on Saturday, but Sunday will be worse. Speaking of the weekend, 70% on Saturday. Again, the first half of the day, 50% chance for rain on Sunday. All right, guys, don't forget, you can catch our forecast on the radio. You can hear it on 105.5 The Dove, 107.3 The Eagle, Magic 94.9, and Hitland 106.9 FM.
We've heard a lot this year about the opioid epidemic and the crackdown on prescription drugs. We also know there are not enough resources for people with addiction in Florida. This can lead to a cycle of those going in and out of jail without rehabilitation. Nightside's Bianca Gralo explains why this can be devastating for those needing help and for the rest of us.
Say you have a family member who's struggling with addiction. In Florida, you could use what's called the Marchman Act to get them into involuntary treatment. The problem is that in the middle of an opioid crisis, there are not enough beds for everyone who needs help. So people with substance use disorder end up sitting in jail for a couple of days and then often get released without the rehabilitation they need. And every day that goes by that a person struggling with addiction doesn't get treatment, they're at risk of overdosing.
A Pinellas County Sheriff came to my home and I asked him if this was about Jennifer, and he said yes. And I said, is it bad? And he said yes. And I said, is she dead? And he said, yes, she's dead.
Sharon Blair's daughter was 29 when she died of an overdose. The first time she tried opioids, she was 12.
Yes, she had surgery for scoliosis, and she was given opiate pain medication to manage her pain. That was the first time she learned what opiate pain medication can do.
Once Sharon found out Jennifer was addicted, she tried to get her into treatment through the Marchman Act.
And that's the thing I kept hearing over and over again was there's no beds available.
She begged the judge to court order Jennifer into treatment, but after getting arrested, her mom says she would always get released without rehabilitation.
My fear was death, always. Always death.
The Pinellas County Sheriff says when his deputies get called to a scene where someone is intoxicated, they don't have where to take them.
What do we do with them? So we take them to the jail, and as soon as they sober up, we push them right out the back door, and they go right back on the street, and they're doing the same thing over and over again because nothing's being done to break the cycle.
The Sheriff's Department takes in an average of 1,000 people a year under Marchman, but there are only 20 beds in Pinellas County for long-term residential treatment.
It's very frustrating.
After jail, some do get an opportunity to detox, but that's not the same as rehabilitation.
Someone leaving our facility after 21 days, are they more stable? Yes. Are they going to be successful if we send them out the door at that point? No. They really need longer treatment, and we don't have enough beds to do that for everybody.
Anybody can be affected by this. Addiction is a mental health issue. It is a medical issue. But for the grace of God, there go you.
And it costs $126 a day to house people in the Pinellas County Jail. And again, the Sheriff's Department arrests an average of 1,000 people a year under the Marchman Act.
Now, from your Suncoast Hyundai dealers, this is 10 Sports.
Soccer players, masters of the flop. Oh, this is no flop. Guy gets drop kicked in the chest during a Champions League qualifier. Yeah, this guy paying the price for all those acting jobs on the soccer field. Chris Archer's social media reads like an obituary this time of year, according to the pitcher himself. That's because Arch sends heartfelt notes to his teammates when they get traded. Arch hoping no one writing his Rays obit in the coming weeks. July 31st trade deadline is approaching, and the Rays will be sellers this season, unlike last year's rare buyers. Many names being tossed around, the most obvious, Wilson Ramos, pitcher Nathan Eovaldi. Archer's name has been in the mix the past several seasons. That has him a bit tense.
Once July 31st passes, finally can exhale, because it's crazy out there, and we have a few commodities that are wanted around the league. So when that's over, a few guys, including myself in this room, will be able to exhale.
You're going to see some names pop up. I understand that, and I think as they do, when those conversations are needed, and if it's easy to say, hey, that's a rumor, or you know what, be honest with them and say there are teams asking about you.
I like that approach from Cash. All right, Florida and Florida State both in the midst of quarterback competitions. Willie Taggart's FSU QB battle, much more ideal. DeAndre Francois, James Blackman, premier players. Taggart sounding like an ACC fan himself at Media Day.
I'm excited to see these guys go out and compete this training camp, and I'm just like the rest of you. Can't wait to see who separate themselves, and as we go into the season, and as soon as they do that, we will let you all know who our quarterback would be.
Taggart keeping it close to the chest. Tiger Woods' neck, all the talk before tee time at the British Open. Woods using kinesio tape on the course, many fearing a neck injury. Woods, no nightmare news, says he just slept on it wrong. Opening round at Carnoustie. If you like that blustery, rainy, nasty conditions of the Open, sorry, beautiful day in Scotland. First hole for Tiger. Irons were strong. This sets up birdie, Tiger's first opening hole bird at a major since 2012. 2 under at the turn, gave it back down the stretch on 15 from one knee in the sand. That's not going to work. Bogey's the hole, even par. 5 back of leader Kevin Kisner. Scotland, about 400 miles from Ireland, but Ian Poulter found some luck at Carnoustie on the last. His ball hops over the water, rolls into the sand, out of the sand, and onto the fringe for par. Poulter, +2 after round 1. Brittany Lincecum going to need a bit more than luck to make the cut at the Barbasol Championship. Really cool story here, though. The St. Pete native, the first woman to play on the PGA Tour in a decade. Lincecum shot a 6 over 78. She is 16 shots back of the lead.
This is a fun walk down memory lane for all of us. It is one of America's favorite families. 8 people who were probably a huge part of your childhood. I guess it's 10 if you count Alice and the Butcher.
That's what
right,
I was saying.
Sam?
We forgot about Alice.
Yeah, the Brady Bunch is who we're talking about.
And now their home could be yours if you've got
money.
$2 million just laying around. So it's a hefty price tag, and that's due in part to the size of the property. The home itself is 2,500 square feet, and the entire lot is more than 12,000. That's about a quarter acre, a little bit over.
Yeah, and the house is in Studio City, which is less than 10 miles northwest of Hollywood, if you're familiar with that area. And it butts up against the LA River, so it's somewhat private feeling back there.
Interesting.
A little TV trivia for you. The house was used for the opening and closing scenes of the Brady Bunch, plus a few moments in between to show the time of day. The rest of it, though, was filmed on a soundstage. So if you want to walk in and buy it and you want to see that staircase, it's not going to be there because that wasn't the house.
And is it true? Remember, they didn't have grass. Wasn't it like turf?
Yeah, it was turf. And a sliding glass door, which probably didn't go to that house. I feel very betrayed now, Alex.
Right, I know. Well, you know, that's Hollywood.
But you grew up like the Brady Bunch.
3 brothers and 2 sisters. Yeah. We didn't have that house, though.
The house sold for $61,000, though, the last time that it sold.
Wow.
So it's,
$2 million.
Jumped up in price. Yeah.
Good night.